Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of YWCA Northern New Jersey. So happy to have some time with you again on this Thursday, June 17th. As you know, if you are regulars of YWTV, Thursdays is the time where we use for our Share the Mic Now segment. Today, with Juneteenth being, right days away, we wanted to specifically highlight an organization that is working daily to create awareness and support around racial and social justice policies to empower our BIPOC communities. And so grateful that Andrea McChristian from NJ Institute of Social Justice, I say these things slowly to make sure I get them right, has joined me this morning so that we can talk about her organization, the amazing work that they're doing, an important rally that's being hosted this weekend that we hope that you all consider participating in, and so much more. So before we jump into it, I want to tell you a little bit more about Andrea. She is the Law and Policy Director at New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. In this capacity, she leads the implementation of strategic vision and direction of the Law and Policy Program. She oversees the programmatic function of the Institute's 3 pillars of social justice, which are democracy and justice, economic justice, and criminal justice reform. Prior to becoming the Law and Policy Director, Andrea served as the director of the Criminal Justice Reform Initiative and was the primary author of Bring Our Children Home, Ain't I a Child?, which forms the basis of the 150 Years is Enough campaign. She is a 2008 graduate of Yale University, graduating with a distinction in the major of political science, and a graduate of Columbia Law School in 2013 as a Harlan Fiske Stone Scholar. And with all that, welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Helen. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
So I guess the first place I want to start, in case our viewers do not know about the wonderful work that your organization is doing, can you tell us about that to start? And for our viewers, we are dropping in the comments the links to the website for NJISJ. And we also encourage you to follow them on social media so that you can stay connected to what's happening moment by moment as you're scrolling on your feeds. You can do that on Instagram, you can do that on Twitter, and you can do that on Facebook.
Sure. So again, thanks so much for having me. The New Jersey Institute for Social Justice was founded in 1999 by Alan V. and Amy Lowenstein, and we are based here in the mighty city of Newark, New Jersey, to really do legal policy and advocacy work to build reparative systems and structures in New Jersey's communities of color. And we have 3 interconnected pillars of work here at the Institute. So first, we have our economic justice pillar, in which we've done a lot of work with the city of Newark. We worked with them to do Newark 2020, which was a program to match 2020 Newark residents to employment in the city by 2020. We've also done a lot of work around looking to guaranteed income, the expansion of homeownership, student loan cancellation, and something we'll talk about later is reparations, that will be part of our economic justice work. In our criminal justice reform pillar, which I used to lead, we have 2 distinct bodies of work there. So on one hand, we have a campaign called the 150 Years is Enough campaign, named for the year we started the campaign, which was the 150th anniversary of Jamesburg, the state's largest youth prison for boys, opening. We are aiming to close New Jersey's 3 youth prisons and invest funds meaningfully into communities most impacted by youth incarceration in the state. Within our pillar, we also have a policing body of work. We are on the independent monitoring team set up by a federal consent decree to oversee needed reforms to Newark Police Division. And we also are soon to launch a separate transforming public safety body of work that says, how can we reduce police footprint in communities, particularly communities of color, by reinvesting meaningfully into community-based resources? And lastly, we have our democracy and justice pillar, where recently we were able to give the right to vote restore the right to vote back to 83,000 people on probation and parole in New Jersey who had previously been denied that right because of a criminal conviction. We've also had a lot of success with advocating for automatic voter registration, online voter registration, the plans for New Jersey voting during the COVID-19 crisis, and are working now on the implementation of early voting in the state, which we were able to successfully advocate for, as well as same-day voter registration. And so this is a very comprehensive body of advocacy that we have here, but we really see all these issues are interrelated to advance equity for communities of color in the state.
Yes, and so impressive, the scope of the work and also the progress, that you've made. And so how do you do that? How do you take your initiatives and move them forward to like a check mark, done, and move on to the next one? Because you've had so much success in terms of really expansive efforts, that were needed.
Sure. So everything that we do here at the Institute is based on our theory of change. So first we go to the community and just see what issues they are being presented with, and the scope of the issues with the community. Then we take those issues and we research them. We create research reports that address the issue, look at the history of the issue, and then have at the end policy proposals that we want to advance to address whatever the issue is that was presented. We then work on public education to make sure that as many people as possible know about these issues and these policy proposals we're trying to advance. We then join with a diverse coalition of advocates to build campaigns to push forward these policy proposals and turn them into either legislation, executive action, or other systems change. And once we get on the other side of the passage of legislation or executive order, we then work to implement it. Because my colleague Retha Onatiri always says, change and progress doesn't matter unless people on the ground can feel it. And so we really ground ourselves within this theory of change. So when we kind of address one issue, we see it through implementation and then say, okay, what else is a community concern that we think we need to address next?
Yeah, the implementation is so key. And, very often kind of we get something to a certain point of getting it passed and think that the check mark is done. But we've seen so much good intended policy, or well-intended policy, I should say, fall short when we hit that implementation stage because the thought wasn't really put in. And the right people weren't around the table to put the thought in. And that brings us back to, the need for organizations like yours to, make sure that, and ours as well, from that perspective, to make sure that there is, equity and diversity at all times, and as part of these discussions and decisions. So, I know we want to talk about the rally, but before that, I want to, I'd love for you to define the word reparations for our viewers, because it may be something that some of our viewers are not familiar with, but we want them to be and want them to understand why they need to be supportive and actually take a very active stance in helping move forward.
So something that we released earlier this year is our Black in New Jersey 2021 through 2022 action agenda. I have a copy here. And so what we've done on the front cover of this advocacy document is to put how in New Jersey, while we're home to immense prosperity, we're also home to some of the worst racial disparities in the country. And so the staircase, each stair in the staircase lists a racial disparity where we have the highest Black to white infant mortality rate in the country. We have the highest Black to white youth incarceration and adult incarceration disparity rates in the country. We're the 6th most segregated state in the nation for Black students. We have one of the starkest racial wealth gaps in the nation, with a white family having a median net wealth of $352,000, the highest in America, but a Black family having one of $6,100. But how do we get to the racial disparities that we see today. We know that it didn't operate in a vacuum. We know that it operated by intentional policies and systems that have resulted in these disparities. And so when we talk about reparations, I like to start with an example, because I think an example really helps set the frame for why we're calling for a New Jersey Reparations Task Force. So as I listed, we have one of the starkest racial wealth gaps in the country. When wealth, as we know, is a major way to build generations, to build communities. And so one of the largest assets in wealth is a home. So how did we get to this, extreme disparity we see today in Black versus white? Well, when we look back at the founding of the colony, when New Jersey was first founded, English settlers who came were given 150 acres at the outset, and an additional 150 acres for every enslaved person they brought to the colony. A year later, they were given an additional 60 acres for every additional enslaved person they brought in the colony. So by the 1830s, 2/3 of all slaves in the Northeast were in New Jersey. After we ended slavery, and again, New Jersey opposed the Emancipation Proclamation, as well as all the Reconstruction Amendments. After the end of slavery, we had an early form of sharecropping that took place here called cottaging. Then later, we had racially restrictive covenants, we had redlining, we had returning Black soldiers being denied the mortgage benefits of the GI Bill. We had predatory lending practices taking place during the Great Recession, leading to New Jersey consistently having one of the highest foreclosure rates in the nation, and New Jersey's Black urban communities having exceedingly high foreclosure rates. And so this divestment, this intentional divestment of Black communities from the opportunity to own homes and thus build wealth, dates all the way back to slavery times and its shameful legacy. And so when we talk about reparations, we're really talking about repairing that harm, realizing that we all didn't start on an equal playing ground, and that from the time that slavery was first addressed within our colony to now, there has been intentional divestment that has created a gap. And to make sure that all within New Jersey are able to enjoy its prosperity, we need to bridge that gap. And how do we do that? Through reparations or reparative justice and structures. And so reparations, from our position, can take many, many different tilts. It could be financial compensation, but it shouldn't be limited to financial compensation. It should look at what laws are in place and have been in place that have perpetuated these racial disparities and strike them down. It should look at what policies and practices we can implement to make sure we're having that reparative justice. And now all those things are what the New Jersey Reparations Task Force would take into account in making its recommendations, and why we're trying to advance that bill so powerfully.
I really want to thank you for giving that level of detail. I mean, this is, for our viewers, there's so much discussion about how Black history is not taught in our schools. This is what we are missing. Talk about whitewashed. It's dropped out, and so that's why many of us of privilege do not understand, because we've never learned it as we should have in our coursework as we were growing up. And with that, then, I would hope then we would all be activated to stand, together with Andrea and her organization and other organizations, that are actively and intentionally, trying to move this forward. So you mentioned the New Jersey Reparations Task Force. Can you tell us a little bit about, obviously we can see where the origins came from and how the concept came together, but what is the charge of the task force? Who sits on the task force? And what's the plan for your work?
Sure. So the bill to create the New Jersey Reparations Task Force is A711 S322, and it was first introduced last legislative session during the 400-year anniversary of enslaved Africans being brought to Jamestown, Virginia, and reintroduced this legislative session. What it would do is create a 2-year task force to address, to research, to analyze the history of slavery and its legacy here in New Jersey, and issue recommendations to the state about how to redress this harm. It would have representatives, including members of the legislature, public members, and would take into account public hearings throughout the state where people could testify about their own history. Because as we know, every day it feels like we're discovering a new pocket of New Jersey being impacted by slavery and its legacy. And so it would take into account evidence coming from the community, historical records, all of that to put forth these recommendations at the end. And so we were hoping to be the first state in the nation to do this. California has become the first state in the nation to pass a reparations task force, and we hope to really become the second, because we know that we can't, in the face of these racial disparities I just listed out for you, start today. Because by starting today, we don't understand and recognize the systems that are still very much in place that have caused these racial disparities and how to eliminate them. And so many people say, okay, reparations, oh, that's such a polarizing word. Can't we call it something else? Can't we call it reparative justice or economic justice? No, we need to name what it is. Today, we're actually launching our Say the Word Reparations campaign to very explicitly make sure that what we're asking for here is reparations to repair the harm of slavery and its lasting legacy. And so something that we have consistently been advocating for is that we have to understand where we've been to understand where we're going. And that's really, we could have just gone straight and called for reparations. Here's an outline of what exactly we need. We're just calling for a task force. And the fact that if there's pushback to a task force, if there's pushback to even saying the word, we know that we're right on target to where we need to be to make sure we're doing racial and social justice in this state.
Yes, yes. And we have to have, we say this over and over again, but we have to have these difficult conversations, and we have to face the ugliness, straight eye to eye, and, dressing it up with a different word or making it look differently is where we've been living all of this time, and that's not the where we need to go forward. For our viewers, you can actively take part in helping this legislation move forward, making this task force a reality. We have a link for you right in the comments here. Act now so that you can urge your state legislators to pass and let Governor Murphy know that we want this signed into law. We have a link here that you just have to hit and show your support, and we encourage everyone to do it. It's important. So tell us about the campaign. So today's the big day. It's being launched, and we're so grateful again in the midst of that you had the time to be able to join us and be able to share so much important information. But tell us about the campaign.
Sure. So the Say the Word Reparations campaign is really stemmed out of the idea that we've heard directly from leadership in the state that if we can just call it something else, then that's something that we could work with and help to advance. But again, we don't want to water down what it is we're asking for. And so we're launching today with a number of assets put together by our communications director, Lori Beecham, that include any supporters can put on Facebook a frame, Say the Word Reparations frame to show that they support this initiative. We're asking all supporters to go to 400yearsnj.org, which will allow you to tweet, email, and call your legislator and the governor to advance the New Jersey Reparations Task Force bill, as well as we're teeing up for our big Say the Word Reparations Juneteenth rally this Saturday here in Newark.
And so the links are, again, to our viewers are here. You should access them to be able to show your support. The YWCA of Northern New Jersey has shown our support for the rally and signed on as a supporter for sure, and very proud to stand with all the other wonderful organizations on this effort that you're pushing out. So tell us what's in store for the rally and what those who join us can expect.
Sure. So we're going to have a great and dynamic program. We are producing this rally in partnership with the People's Organization for Progress, who has led a reparations rally for decades now. And so we're going to start at Lincoln Memorial on West Market Street at noon, and starting with a slate of amazing speakers from historians, from community-based advocates, to Newark residents, to young people, to our partners across the state. and then moving with that from a march from the Lincoln Memorial to Newark City Hall to start at 1:30 with another slate of speakers, including Senator Cory Booker, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, Congressman Donald Payne, major faith leaders like Bishop Chip Stokes, as well as a number of our partners from advocacy organizations. And so we're very excited for everyone to join us to help say the word on Juneteenth, the first time that the state is recognizing it as a public holiday in the state. And so we really think that on Freedom Day, it's a wonderful time to say the word, to let everyone know that we believe that true freedom for Black communities in New Jersey means reparations.
So folks, we also, obviously we have it up on the screen now for you, and we have been sharing this information through our social media. We encourage you to go to the link for their website. You can go to our website. You can, get the details, and we do hope that you can join on Saturday. And also, if for some reason you can't get there, that you can stay connected on social media, keep up on, all the great speakers and the important conversation. So we've got the rally, you've got the campaign, we're working on pushing the bill. How else can we show up? How else can we help move forward this initiative and so many other important ones that you're working on, Andrea?
Sure. So I encourage everyone to go to our website and review our Black in New Jersey 2021 through 2022 action agenda. So we really create this document because we know this is an important election year. Every seat in the New Jersey legislature is up, the governor's seat is up, and we want to make sure that those that we elect to office are responsive to issues we care about in racial and social justice. And so within the document, we've laid out all of our advocacy priorities that we would hope anyone interested within racial justice, social justice could help advocate for. We have a number of phone to action tools on our website, again, that would allow you to email, call, or tweet your legislator and the governor on a number of campaigns that we are launching and are interested in. Today, we're actually testifying in Trenton. We've been testifying in Trenton all this week, but today we're testifying in support of two different bills. One is S2924, which would appropriate $8.4 million to create youth restorative justice hubs and enhanced reentry services in Camden, Patterson, Trenton, and Newark. This we're really seeing as an emergency response bill because thanks to the advocacy of so many incarcerated people with less than a year on their sentence received good time credits in response to the COVID-19 crisis and were able to be released. So we have over 100 young people now who have been released from our youth justice facilities in response to COVID-19, and they're desperately in need of services because we know if we don't have wraparound services for when they go home, there's a high likelihood they'll end up back within these facilities. And so we're excited that that bill is being considered in the Senate Budget Committee today, so that hopefully that can advance and get those services to those young people. We're also testifying today in support of A698, which would end all prison-based gerrymandering and all redistricting in the state. We were recently able to successfully get a bill passed that ended prison-based gerrymandering at the state legislative redistricting level, and we want to make sure that at the local level as well, that people are able to be counted at their home districts where they were before they were incarcerated, rather than their bodies used to kind of pump up population counts in places where they're incarcerated. And so those bills and more are listed within our 2021-2022 action agenda, and we hope that everyone read the agenda, go to our phone to action tools, and help to move these initiatives forward.
And to our viewers, you can easily access it. We have the link for you right here in the comments so that you can have your own copy, read the detail that Andrea has shared with us, and take action. As I always say on our broadcast, it's not enough. We want people to vote for sure, but it doesn't stop there. We have to remember that once we put our elected officials in office, that they work for us, and they need to know how we feel on issues so that they can move them forward. And we have, through this New Jersey Action Agenda that's been put together by the New Jersey Institute of Social Justice, you have a great list of what to move forward and how you can show up and support. So please click the link, print out a copy. We don't want to ruin too many trees or anything, but print out a copy so you have it close, because it's an important document. I myself have had the opportunity to view it, and it's definitely something you want to keep close to inform you as you're, watching the news and speaking to the different organizations that you're connected to. And as I always share, YWTV is about getting the word out, sharing information that's important, and you're part of that process. We hope that something that you heard today stays with you, and that you integrate it into a conversation you have later today with someone. Send the link to this broadcast in a text to someone that you wish had watched it. Share it to your Facebook page. Send it on Messenger. Amplifying this important information helps make you an ally, and helps make you part of, moving forward, such important initiatives. And we hope that you can join us for the rally on Saturday. We also hope that you reach out about the reparations task force and make known your interest in it moving forward. And if you need more information about that, definitely visit the website of the New Jersey Institute of Social Justice to be able to learn more. And they have so many great programs that you can connect to also over time, and obviously coalitions and ways that you can get more involved. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today. There's so much important information that you shared, and I'm grateful that we have been able to support this effort, and look forward to continuing to support. Our missions are so linked and aligned, and so happy that we have you and your organization here in New Jersey doing such important work.
Thank you so much, Helen. It was my pleasure, and we're so grateful for your partnership.
And for our viewers, again, we also hope that tomorrow at 11 a.m. that you join us as well. Our team at the YWCA of Northern New Jersey, our YW family, got together, and we were grateful to listen to Shelley Washington of our Bergen County Martin Luther King Birthday Committee teach us a little bit about the meaning and message of Juneteenth, and what it represents to our community. This was the first year the YWCA was closed, has acknowledged and shut the organization, and will be a holiday going forward. And happy to see that, we had made that decision last year. And this year, we're happy to see that the federal government has now followed, suit. And but we wanted to share her amazing message and information with you as well. So much to build on and linked to what Andrea shared today. So we'll be airing that for you tomorrow at 11 a.m. So we hope that you can watch that as well. And lots of great programs happening at the YW, including our Girls Leadership Academy, programs for our sexual violence survivors, free senior fitness classes to help break the social isolation and keep our community strong and fit, and summer camp registration. So please visit our website to stay linked to all the great options for you and your families as well. Everyone have a great day and a wonderful Juneteenth.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.